evening, everybody, and how are we all doing today? I just suddenly remembered to share this live stream to our Facebook group. How are we all doing today? It's Sunday night, and it's time for our weekly get together, our weekly chat, our weekly hug. Time for our weekly live stream, shall we call it? I've gone round the houses there a bit. So tonight, what we're going to be talking about is garden talks, and I think this is going to be a great subject. So let's quickly see if we've got anybody out there, first of all. Over on Instagram, I can see Joff is there, Joff Epthlick, a fellow podcaster. How you doing, my friend? Hope you are well. And Jonathan S44444 has also joined over there. Lovely to see you. Hope you are well. Now, over on the other channels, we've got Philly SBB saying hello, everyone on YouTube. Adrian is there saying hello, Richard and all. Good evening to you. Kate is there. Good evening, Veg Army. Good evening to you. Turbo Stream. Good evening, Veg Podcasters. Good evening to you. Scott from Seed to Table Plot 13. Good evening, all. Good evening to you. Anna Jones is there saying good evening, gardeners. Good evening to you. Just quickly, I've just seen over on Instagram, Joff has just said, all good. Gave a talk yesterday. So we have got a talker in the house who can hopefully, well, share his own insight on this very subject. Hargrave Gas says, evening, everyone. I hope you've all had a great week. Good evening to you. Beddoes, evening, Army. Good evening to you. Nathan from Allotted Chef is evening, all. Good evening to you. Stuart Jackson is there saying, evening, Richard and the Veg Army. Good evening to you. Nicola, evening, lovelies. What a mild day and sunshine. It's been lovely this weekend. Chili Kate, hi everyone. Hi Richard. Looking forward to tonight's live. And the fisherman is there saying evening all. Good evening to you. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. I will come back to the comments in just a moment. Let's get into it, shall we? So, talks. Put your hands up if you've attended a garden talk. I'm sure most of you have. I've gone to quite a few in my time, mostly at various shows that I attend, be it Gardener's World or one of the many other ones that we attend to. But I've also, and this is slightly where the topic is coming from, I've done talks myself. I've got a talk coming up in a couple of weeks' time down in Hampshire for Chili Kate. I will share the details of that in the Facebook group if anybody who is in the Hampshire area would like to attend. But one of the things I found is that there's a big wide difference in the quality of the talks that I have been to. And I mean that with love, because some can be very, very good. And some, I'm going to use a word that is the wrong word, but they can be a little bit boring, a little bit dull. And I don't mean that to be rude. It's just how I found it. And there's a wide difference in this. So I guess really what it comes down to is, what is it that you like about certain talks? What is it that you like about certain talkers? Over on Instagram, Sean Kickley has joined, and Garden Amit Apix has joined as well. Now, let's have a quick look at the comments. So, what have we got? Ballycillian is there saying evening, everyone. Good evening to you. Somebody on Facebook is saying evening all. I think this is probably Rebecca. Let me know if I'm correct. I've been seeing a lot of people complaining with StreamYard and Facebook that the names aren't coming up. So hopefully, I don't know what's going on there. But if you could just let me know who you are at the end, that would be very useful. Kate is there saying, I can talk a lot, usually if people want me to or not. Absolutely. Hargrave Gas has got the thumbs up there. Nicola says, yes, she's been to Garden Talk as well. David Williams, evening all. Been a while since I've caught a live. Indeed, it's been a while since we've seen you. Hope you are well. Digwell, hi all. Just finished prepping the veg for my roast later. You do eat late at night, don't you, Digwell? Fisherman says thumbs up as well. Chili Kate has also got a wave. Digwell has got a wave. Allotted Chef has got a thumbs up. Stuart Jackson has got a thumbs up. Jenny is there. Hello, everyone. I hope you are well and had a great week. I love a garden talk, from local groups to Monty Don. Now, quite relevant. So Geoff is saying that I think no matter how interesting you think your talk is, most people can only pay attention for 45 minutes to 1 hour. That is actually something I've got, and I completely agree with, because a lot of the talks that I attend, as I said, I do a lot at the shows and all the various things that we do. But some of the other talks that I attend is slightly non-garden related. I'm part of, and I've mentioned this to some of you before, I'm part of my local photography group. Every Wednesday we meet up, we talk about cameras, we do some demonstrations, and every few weeks we have a talker. And the talkers there are the same as what I find with some of the gardeners. In fact, I would say that some are incredibly, in the photography talking world with local groups, they're incredibly dull in that sense. And I mean that with love again. 45 minutes to an hour. Now, what we found with the photography group is that we got a 2 hour window. We do the first half, 45 minutes, an hour in the first half. We have a break for refreshments, and then we come back for another 45 minutes to an hour. Is that typical for most other garden talks, or is it a full talk for 45 minutes an hour at a garden group? I've read Jenny's. Kate says, I've been to quite a lot of talks in different groups, local, organic gardeners, village group, club, etc., etc. Thought you were going to say thought you were going to say for Xmas Christmas there. Nicholas says, evening, Jenny. Bethan, evening all. Good evening to you. And yes, I was right. It was Rebecca. Don't apologise, because we haven't had to do it for a while, because it normally comes up with your name. It's just something that seems to be going on there these days. Auditioning for Santa this year, Richard. What, with my red jumper? You know, I don't like Christmas, as I'm sure you know. Terrestrom says, I've seen 4 talks that I remember. One was Francis Toppearl, stood next to Richard at Gardener's World. Yeah, I remember that well. I couldn't hear much because we were stood at the back. Actually, that's another point that I've got to raise. Quick check on Instagram. Yontown S444 says, so good to be here. So good to see you there. Dorset Smallholder Adventures has joined. Ian has joined. McCorgan, and says, evening, Richard and all. I can never get your name right for some reason. A thumbs up there. Digwell says, it's a Royal Navy thing. Evening meals always at 19:30. Kind of stuck. Oh, okay. Highgrave Gas says, talks shouldn't be just the delivery of facts. Great. This is what we want to get into. What is it that you want from a garden talk? That might be a better way to phrase it. Talks shouldn't be about delivery of facts. They need to be entertaining. That's actually something I've listed right down. I believe people can learn more when they are entertained. If they have a laugh, they learn more. And I say that because not all talks, well, I believe all talks are about learning, but they're also about keeping people engaged. Anyway, yeah, he says they need to be entertaining enough to keep people engaged. Keep it simple enough. Keep it simple enough for us all to follow, to understand, give them insights they wouldn't otherwise get. I'm going to stick with this comment for a bit, actually, because you've hit on quite a few of the things that I've been thinking about when we've been thinking about this subject, because there's a saying, particularly in the science world, that some of the best, the most knowledgeable people, the experts, or I'm trying to think of a good example, but the saying is that the people that know that what they're talking about the real experts, they can deliver it to you in a way that you don't understand, but the real good experts are the ones that deliver it to a way that everybody can understand. And I think that is one of the good things to point out there. Delivering your talk, delivering a message in a way that everyone can understand is very, very important. I think this is Rebecca. I do love a garden talk. I have to admit, I do learn a lot from these groups. However, very disappointed when I listened to Monty Don. What was it that disappointed you? What was it that disappointed you when you heard that? Chili Cat says, we after the show before 6 o'clock is just too early. I try to eat before 6 o'clock, and that's me, though. Toby Stream, another was at Gardener's World again, but it was hard to hear properly. Again, this is actually something I've discovered with our photography club about being hard to hear. So when I do my talks, I actually do carry microphones, and I've got a little speaker with me as well. And the reason, again, when I went to my photography club, when I first started going there, they were having troubles, and they've said they've always had troubles with the audio system. It's in like a church hall. There's an audio system in place there, but they use it, or they were trying to use it, but they could never get it to work well. Well, I had it figured out within one session. Obviously, I know a bit about audio. And since then, we have got the audio bang on at this club. And everybody at this club, since, I don't know, when did I start doing? I started a year ago there, but I started working the audio probably January this year. Since I have got the audio to work at our photography club, people are much more engaged. They are much more invested and enjoying the talks because they can actually hear. And I say this because a lot of people in our photography club are of an age, I'm being very polite here because I don't want to be rude, of an age where the hearing isn't as good as it used to be. And I've had it. I'm always sat at the back. I've got a guy next to me who would turn to me, I can't hear him, cannot hear the talker. So I completely understand that being able to hear is a very important thing. Digwell says a talk is always more interesting if the subject is new. Listening to someone talk about cabbage seeds is boring. Now, how to air layer a piece of sycamore gap tree would be interesting. That's a very good point. So something a bit challenging. It's a topic that's a little bit different. That sounds interesting as well. Nick Bailey did a great one, made it real and personal. What was it about? Kate says, I prefer talks that aren't full of Latin names. It needs to be accessible by people who don't think about that kind of thing. Again, that's one of the things I kind of agree with. There is an element that obviously the RHS, if you are RHS trained, you have to learn the Latin names. They are a scientific name, and there is a good reason behind that. But most people, when I'm talking to people down a pub, I don't start saying Stavium mufferatus or something when I'm talking about P. So, yeah, I get what you're saying there as well. It's about, again, what I said earlier about making it easy for everybody to understand. Jonathan, sorry, over on Instagram is asking any tips for growing broccoli. Make sure you lime the soil is my big tip. It is a brassica, but I'll throw that out there. Anybody else got any tips for growing broccoli? Stuart says, I've seen a few garden talks. Some celebrity gardeners do the same talk over and over. The best ones I have heard is Frosty and Francis doing along with Alan Titchmarsh all at Malvern. Now, again, this is actually saying I think as well, because I have heard some talkers do the same talk several times over the years, and it does get a little bit boring. So again, somebody I've spoken to about this before, has said that every year they change their talks to keep it interesting. They have a set of talks for the year. The next year they do another set of talks just to keep it interesting. David says, never been to a talk as such. Would much rather take part in things like this when you can watch again and drum things in, if you know what I mean. Absolutely. I know exactly what you mean. Workshops are much, I think, in my opinion, workshops are better than talks where people get involved. They get their hands dirty and really involved. Over on Instagram, the messy allotment tier has joined. Lovely to see you. Hope you are well. Turbo Stream says, I find that talks with an audience, some people insist on talking amongst themselves. Why sit there and talk when others want to listen? Funny story about this. So, Ideal Home Show back in March, Lee, the Skinny Jean Gardener, was doing a talk there, which he quite often does. And there were a group of people in the audience who were chatting amongst themselves. So what Lee did, and I couldn't believe he did it, but it was so funny. He carried on talking. He walked out to this group of people that were talking and sort of sat down with them and said, so what you're chatting about here? Their look was amazing because they just look, oh my God, what have we done? kind of owned it. But I kind of agree. If you're having a conversation in an audience, you are ruining it for everybody in the audience, actually. I do want to be a negative, but this is one of the things I do think we have to be wary of. If we are watching a talk, we've got to remember the other people in that in that audience are going to be doing the same. Stuart says one to look out for is Lucy Chamberlain. She tends to speak in very simple terms so everyone can understand. Agree. Very, very good friend of mine, Lucy. A lot of time for her. Jenny says that the Nick Bailey was talking about his new garden. Interesting. Hargrave is saying to Tabastream, 100% agree. Audience chatting happens even when they have paid to attend. It just annoys me as well. I don't understand why people do that. Nathan says Chris Collins is a very good talker. He is actually knowledgeable, good pace, funny, down to earth. Absolutely. He's also got a very loud, boomy voice, which carries well. Yeah, I like Chris Collins. I must get him on the podcast at some point, actually. Turbo Stream says, I found out my hearing is bad in the upper frequency. So background noise, chatter drowns the talk out. Now having to use hearing aids. I've got the same, I don't need hearing aids, but I have the same similar sort of thing in that I can't tune out when there's a lot of background noise. But this is a symptom of ADD. Yeah. Digwell says, easy, every seed is planus growers. Scott says, a talk is better if it has a personal touch. I have gone to the talk. I'm there because I follow that gardener and I want personal insights as well as gardening tips. Again, I agree with that. I totally agree with that. Jenny says, this Monty one I went to was at a local theatre, so different to Gardener's World Live. Very interesting, very informative, and he interacted with the audience a lot. Again, another thing that I think is quite important with talks, and some of the best talks that I've gone are the ones where they've interacted with the audience. And this is, again, something I try and do is that I throw questions out to the audience to get them to give me something back or get them to think about what they would do, what they would think about. It's even better when you can get answers. So I do think interactions is much better of being more engaging. Kate says, I do prefer workshops myself. Digwell says, I've heard Titchmarsh do the same talk twice, even had the same questions for them in the audience. Go figure. The questions, how do I split my agapanthus? Yeah. I mean, again, that's one of the annoyances I have because there are some talkers who seem to recycle their same talk over and over and over. I'm trying not to be negative. I've hired Chili Phil as a bouncer. If they talk among themselves, they know about it. Excellent. This is interesting hearing you all actually agree with me on this. And this is one of the best things that Lee did when he literally went to them and embarrassed these people who were talking in the audience. Just sat down with them. What are you talking about? Let's all join in. A bit like, when you were at school and you were talking and the teacher would get you to throw it out. Digler says, an old lecturer's trick, one I do is ask the chatters to share it with the rest of the room. Yeah. Ballycillian, talks don't really work for me. I prefer and learn more by watching something being done. Again, that's a workshop. And that might be something we can talk about another day, another time, or we could do more workshops. Stuart says, I love it when the talker does a Q&A after the talk. This helps, I think. I agree totally on that. So just on Instagram, the messy allotment here says, I do talks of beekeeping, etc. As long as you can keep the audience engaged and get them practically involved in a workshop format, it makes it much more interesting. No one wants to be sit and talked at. Thank you. That is exactly the phrase I was looking for. No one wants to be sat and talked at. They want to be engaged and involved. This is really good information. Turbo Stream says, I doubt I would pay to go to a talk, but do drop in on talks if I'm at a show. Some are good. I enjoyed the talk at campervan shows. His talk was some of the years I attended. Yeah. I think, again, I guess I mean, you've kind of, amongst yourselves, already answered all the questions that I have down here, or all the points that I wanted to make at. I think it needs to be entertaining and informative. Don't repeat. Um, one of the things I always think when it comes to talks as well, and regardless of where it is, but people are paying good money to be at that talk. They are, and it's hard-earned money, and it doesn't matter whether it's at Gardener's World Live or um, your local garden club. People are paying good money for that talk to be there, and I think we, as talkers and as audience members, we've got to respect that. I'm slightly going off edge here because I want to engage everyone in this talk, but I know not everybody does talks. Where would I go? Where would I go? Jenny says, has anyone attended online talks? I've done a few, very different experience, but it was still interesting. I haven't, I don't think I've attended any online talks. I mean, in some ways, I guess you could say I do a talk every week with you guys, but I know Kate, other Kate Spratt, and it gets confusing, Chili Kate and Kate Spratt. She put a picture up the other day of a talk online. I think it was on an online talk, but I could be wrong, about leaks. What was that talk like, or what did you take away from it? The start of every talk should be tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them what you have told them. Oh, that should say the three parts of a talk. Oh, so the three parts are tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you have told them. Okay, interesting. I always thought it's good to start with a little bit of who am I? What am I about? What am I here for? What do I do? Just to introduce yourself to the audience. Stuart says, my class knows not to talk. When I am talking, if they do that, they always get to be my helper. Or I ask them to take my place. That normally shuts them up. The other question is, how do we get as many people there as possible? I know that Richard is entertaining, but how do I get that across? That's a good question, actually. That's a very good question. Obviously, I've got to share your actually, Chili Cake, if you want to share the thing that you've got in a Facebook group as well to try and get as many people seen. But how do you get people to attend a talk? This is something that Chili Cake is struggling with because she's, I believe, for the year organising all these talks. And it's all down to marketing at the end of the day, all down to marketing. So the golden rules for marketing, you need something that's going to catch their eye and make people want to get involved, make them want to come along. So titles, descriptions, that sort of thing, and try and get it everywhere. So marketing at Garden Club, locally, online, your local pages and things like that will all work. Roxy, leave that alone. Roxy's down here by everyone if you haven't realised. Anna says, I've watched a few TED Talks about gardening online. Many different subjects, but they are nearly all American low. Interesting. Stuart says, yes, I've attended online talks a few times. I much prefer in person. And Scott says, the talks I liked are the ones that have an interviewer questioning the person doing the talk show. That's interesting. You like the interviewer style talks. That's very, very interesting. Because that involves two people on stage. But so, yeah, interesting. I've watched a few TED Talks on YouTube. Some are really interesting. What makes a TED Talk different from anything else? I'm just throwing it out there. I've never understood that. Is it like a teddy bear comes along with you or something? The online league talk was okay, but I think it was for people above my level of expertise. A very knowledgeable speaker, though, and interesting. He hires and seeks of exhibitions and goes for world records. Yeah, I mean, going for world records and doing that sort of talk is something explosive, isn't it? It's got that, wow, I can grow the biggest leek in the world. It's got a certain appeal to it, something rather than, yeah, I grow leeks. It's that hook, the hook. Yay, Roxy. You're getting attention there, Roxy. EG, says Digwell. Today we are going to talk about the best way to peel an onion. My name is Digwell and I have a BSc Hons Culinary Arts as a start. With you, right, yeah, with you. So he grows and sells, says Kate. With you. So, right, so what have we said? So we've come up with some interesting points. What is it then? What is it that you would want from a garden talker or a talker in the talking about gardening or vegetable gardening? What is it you want from them? I'm going to throw that out to you and turn it onto you. Chitty Phil says we need a Roxy cam, Richard. I was planning on setting that up. I haven't got my sofa bed in this shed just yet, but once it is, we're going to try and set that up for her so she does have her own camera. The trouble is she doesn't always sit down in the same place. That stupid dog. I love her to bits, don't I, Roo? She's not liking the fireworks at the moment, though. Jenny says, one talk I often disagree with is Garner's question. Often out of dated advice and old-fashioned methods. So again, this is something that comes up quite often. And outdated advice or old-fashioned methods, you know, it's a very difficult one to get right because people who've been doing it for years and years know it works. Then there's also an element that there's a responsibility if you are a celebrity or you are in the media, and this applies to myself as well. We have got certain restrictions on what we can and can't say, i.e., we can't say to use a certain substance to deter pests if it's not designed for deterring pests. And I'm trying to think of an example that I could throw out there. A few years ago, it's been proven it's no good. A few years ago, what was it called? I can't think what it was called, but people would say spray it on and it would stop aphids. Can't think what it was called. It's used in soap making and stuff. But basically, because that wasn't something that was designed to be used for pest control, people can't use it. Milk, actually, that's a good one for powdery mildew. People say to spray milk on the leaves, but milk is there for drinking. It's not really meant for dealing with powdery mildew. It's technically illegal for anybody to recommend it, technically. Digwell says, finally, today we have talked about peeling an onion, how to stop crying the two different ways and the smell in your hands, etc. Digwell's basically given us a bit of a talk on onions there. Over on Instagram, Jonathan S4444 says, some tips for growing strawberries. So my big tip for growing strawberries is to use a tomato feed on them. A tomato feed when they are in flower, get them to produce lots of flowers and get them to produce decent fruit. Keep them moist at all times. A good mulch with straw can also be very good for that. And just treat them with lots of love and respect. They are a great plant to grow. Messy allotment tip, bicarb soda. It wasn't what I was thinking of, but Digwell's come up with it. Neem oil, thank you. That one, where is it? Neem oil, that was the one I was thinking of. Yeah, neem oil does give this the problem. Kate says, I do think it's a good idea to allow some questions to be sent before the talk. Good one, actually. Some people are afraid of public speaking, so they don't want to ask as they want to at the time. Actually, that is a very good point. That is a very good point. A very good point there. A funny story or insight is what I like. Watched one of your talks, Richard, and you got talking about water butts. Yeah, I do actually think funny stories and funny little anecdotes actually make a talk as well. I've learned that. So I do throw in my my water butts and the king of butts with how many water butts I have, or a few other little jokes that I throw in like that as well to make it a little bit more amusing. Is there such thing as outdated advice though? Just mix and match all your info you gather. So DDT, it used to be advised to use DDT as a weed killer, but DDT is banned. So I would say that is outdated advice. Hargrave Gas says, I've done a few online talks with David Hurian. Very good, as we got to download handout summaries, which I appreciated. Yeah, I like David Hurian as well. And again, I think some of the best talks that I've been to as well, they've actually given us something to take away. Quite often it's forget-me-nots, a pack of forget-me-not seeds, because, well, it means you remember them. Again, I think that is a good idea too. Scott says it was funny part of the talk and had the audience laughing. What, the water butt king? Yeah. Yeah. Gardener's question time. I would normally go to the RHS stand and ask questions. They tend to have real gardeners and not so-called celebrities. Nothing wrong with so-called celebrities or real gardeners. I'm going to stand up on the side of celebrities here, because there are real gardeners who can talk about gardening, but celebrities can deliver the message about gardening. It's a very different skill set. That's why I know some people in different fields are very good within that field, but they're not very good at delivering the message. Big difference. Anne says, my husband used to give talks to gardening groups accompanied by slides. Thank you. That's something else I was going to do. Humorous anecdotes and good images ensured they got repeat bookings. Again, slides are something else. We do this at our camera club, and I've been preparing slides for my talk as well. And I think that is important, because it gives you, as a speaker, the chance, or even as an audience member as well, the chance to see what is being spoken about. Also, from my perspective as a talker, it helps me, you know, like how you would write out bullet points when you were doing a wedding speech. I see it as that. It prompts for the next bit that you're going to talk about. Digwell says, I was just telling the viewers the free rules of giving a talk with examples. Any talk that does not do this is almost guaranteed to be forgotten at best. Yeah, repeating that message. I think so. Some of the soil advice was outdated, especially given all evidence on soil health and structure. Yeah, I mean, we do learn more as we go on, don't we? We do learn a lot about this. Turbo Stream says, I wouldn't ask a question in a live audience, but would submit a written question in advance. Okay, for your garden event, the talk I'm doing, if you want to get any questions in advance, that'll be good. I can answer those. Agree with Kate. I wouldn't want to ask a question in front of people. Good point, as we would ask one before. There we go. I will do that in the future. And Kate, if anybody's got any questions, get them to submit it. It's always great to have a funny fact or funny story from me. Children always remember the funny facts. Yeah, it laughs. David, I was basically talking about growing advice, Richard. Wouldn't touch DDT with a nuke suit. No, I'm with you. I'm just using that as an example. I do agree with you. It is very, very different. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to sharing bad advice or old advice, our knowledge changes. But then if we take the no dig on digging argument, it would be right to say no dig used to be how we used to garden. Then we started digging the soil, and now we're starting to move back to a no dig side of things. Now, what is the old advice? What is the bad advice? Who knows? I mean, there's still people who dig the soil, and gardeners will recommend digging the soil. Other gardeners don't dig, hence no dig, and they will recommend not digging. So, yeah, it's very difficult to work out. I mean, I've always believed in just sharing what I do and let people decide what they want to do. Chili Kit says, I think we can look at the question box as people arrive, written a slip of paper. Probably too late to get that message out. That's fine, Kate. That is absolutely brilliant. I was going to ask everybody at the end for any questions anyway, but we can throw that in there. And yet DDT was organic. That's the irony. That's the irony indeed. Yontan says thank you for the help with strawberries. By the way, I want to say if I get any questions from any listeners or anybody viewing, sorry, um, I do want you guys to help. Feel free to answer as well, because one of the things that we do here on this live stream is we pool all our experiences together to get the best possible outcome for whoever is listening. Anne says, I've listened to many talks over the years. I have come to hate PowerPoint presentations read out by the speaker. Actually, that is a bugbear of mine. Somebody who basically, they've got what's written on the screen and they read it out as well. That is a bugbear of mine. I mean, PowerPoint can be great for prompts, but I don't want to be reading out or seeing somebody read out was exactly on the screen as well. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Jenny says, my old garden talk events always had a raffle relating to the talk. E.g., seed saving, they had books, envelopes, seed trays, etc. Helped keep the costs down as the funds went towards the next talk. Yeah, that's a good trip as well, isn't it? Having raffles and things like that. That might work very well. We've been doing something similar at our camera club, funny enough, too. Just trying to get more people involved and things like that. Over on Instagram, Yontown is saying, do you have any experience with basil? Because my basil grows very slowly and in a small amount. I hope you can give me some advice. So basil is a Mediterranean plant. It does need a bit of heat. But what I found with basil is it also needs a lot of moisture in the soil. It needs very, very moist soil. I grow my hydroponics quite successfully, but it does grow very slow in the beginning, and then it will just suddenly go boom. Depending on the variety as well, because there are some varieties that are only a single leaf basil. But most of it's slow at the beginning, then it will just suddenly shoot off. But keep the soil moist is my biggest tip with it. So there's somebody else in the Facebook group. I'm not sure, or on the Facebook page. Again, I don't know what's going on with Facebook. Something's changed. Good evening. Hope you are keeping well. We're very well, thank you. Just let me know who you are so I could address you personally. Over on Instagram, Mark J8108 has joined as well. Digwell says, Richard, I've captured a few examples of the size of the typing box for you and how hard it is to correct a mistake. We'll send them later. Thank you. There's not much I can do about it, but it's a good idea. Good, thank you. Stuart says, I think every garden is different, so we need different advice. My garden is heavy clay. My school garden is all in raised beds. Very different. What I don't do at home, I can't do at school. Yeah, I mean, this is one of the great things, and this is always the trouble I have, is that I'm on the South Coast. I spoke about this on the podcast recently. I'm on the South Coast, so my conditions here are quite different to somebody further up north. So we all have different soils, different climates, different moisture levels, lots of things that make it all different. This is one of the great things of having a big pool of people that can get advice from. Oh, it's Pauline. It's my auntie Pauline all the way over in Canada there. That's on the Facebook page. Thank you very much. Digwell says, not you. It's the same on all lives on all channels. Yeah, with you. So let's have a quick check. Anybody got anything else they want to say about these garden talks, or anything that they've noticed that they want to get off their chest about this? Because I think it's something I find this very interesting, hearing your feedback about it, because there's definitely lots of things that I'm agreeing with and lots of things that I haven't really thought about. Right. David Williams says, according to the Google Master, DDT was far from organic. I've heard it was organic, but hey, either way, it's a banned substance, so it's not like we can. Well, it is here. I thought it was organic, but it's organic can mean many different things in some ways, but it's banned, so we can't use it anyway. Scott says, I was glad you mentioned location on the podcast. We have a very different climate in Birmingham, even though we are only 100 miles or so to the north. Yeah. This is something that I've always said, is that trying to get or take into account different locations. Because, again, this is one of my complaints when people say, oh, just go and do this and your rhubarb will grow perfectly. Well, how do you know? You need somebody local with similar conditions to really share with you how they've done it, how they've been successful for it to really work in your circumstance. But this is again where I say we live in this great world now where, we have a lot of information at our fingertips and we can access different people all sharing their different gardening experiences. And it's one of the things I love about this internet thing, the world that we live in these days, social media. We all got different ideas, different opinions. We can all share them. So I don't know, was it talking about this DDT being organic? I'm sure I heard it was organic, but anyway, we can't use it. It's neither here nor there. It's just a bit of an annoyance. Right. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to quickly go because I've got this smell from what we've been cooking this week. So we're going to go to that video. Of course, I should mention, I forgot to share photos last week. So we've got 2 lots of photos to go through this week. But let's start off with these vegetable pakoras. Okay, so vegetable pakoras is a recipe of the week this week. So we'll start off making some paste. I'm following a BBC recipe. A large tomato, a few chilies, and added to that some chopped ginger. Put the lid on, turn it on, helps if it's plugged in of course, and what do we want? Blend high. Maybe that was a bit too high, so I'm going to take that down to a low. I think that'll just about do. So the next side of things, in here we've got 200 grams of gram flour, tablespoon and a half of ground coriander, tablespoon and a half of garam masala, and a tablespoon and a half of chili powder. This is the batter mix. So we're just going to give that a mix up, and then we're going to throw in loads of vegetables. This is half a cauliflower, half an aubergine, a couple of potatoes, and an onion, all chopped up. Ideally, it would be better to get it chopped up nice and small. The recipe actually called for half moon, or quarter moon, sorry, which I don't quite get because a quarter moon is a very difficult thing to cut out. Give it a mix, and then we try and mix in some water to bring it all together. Getting there, a bit more water I think we need. Good, getting there. There we go, that's looking better. So what we do now, we add in this paste that we made earlier. It says it's definitely a paste. Only trouble is that tomato skin hasn't chopped properly, so we'll leave that to one side. At this stage, it does say to get your hands in here and give us a good mix. I think we'll do. That's come together really nicely, nice and sticky. So I think that is more or less ready for cooking. And now the fun begins, the cooking. So hot oil. Basically, I don't have a deep fat fryer, but we're basically deep fat frying these. That looks like it could have done with being a little bit hotter and a little bit more. But hey ho, we'll see what happens as these cook. In theory, we should be able to jiggle them around and cook them a few times. I'm going to have to cook all this mixture in batches. Well, you'll notice I'm doing them in fairly small balls just to make sure it goes around nicely. Okay, these have been frying for a few minutes now and I reckon they look about ready. So that's the first batch. We've still got a lot more to do. We're just going to take them off, pop them to one side and drain them while I get the rest done. In the meantime, let's head on back to the studio and find out just how these taste. So here we go. Nice big bowl of vegetable pakoras. All sitting here. I think they look great. But the big question is, what do they taste like? Absolutely lovely. Absolutely lovely. So I don't like eating on camera, but we do this every week. Absolutely delicious. Nice bit of chili after kick. Nice, just nicely seasoned. That is absolutely lovely. Be even better with a nice bit of mango chutney or something as well. Go really well with that. Delicious, really nice. I have actually added the link to the recipe that I used in the description if you want to check that out. If you are looking to make vegetable pakoras yourself, I think it worked quite well. So back to the comments. Anne says, engage with the audience. Don't just talk to them, ask them questions. I'm with you on that. Totally with you on that. Turbo Stream says, an example talking about things that don't, or different locations. Example is broad beans. You can overwinter, but mine always fail here. Trying to keep Acqua Dolce Claudia this year as a trial. Yeah, that is a good example. And I've seen a couple of people came in with a bit of information there. Do you cover your broad beans with fleece, says Bethan to Turbo Stream? And Jenny says, I sow my broad beans in a large sail trays so they stay in there till early next spring. They will be under a cloche or in a zippy, cold but frost-free. Turbo Stream says, I did Bethan, but I was growing the Saturn variety. Last year, the field beans failed as well. I think it did get incredibly cold last year at one point, didn't it? I'm hungry now. They look fab. They are delicious, actually. Says Scott. Jenny says they look amazing. Bethan says, I found covering with fleece helped keep the worst of the frost off mine. Excellent. And Turbo, I need to cover them up, really. It's not the cold, wet condition. It's the cold, wet conditions, not the cold. So you need to really look at drainage and improving your soil to get better drainage. These are really delicious, these vegetable pakoras. Whoever recommended me to do these for this week's cook-along, thank you so much. Absolutely delicious. We're going to need a cook-along for next week. So get your ideas out there. On Instagram, Yontan says, what is the best place for me to keep the mint after I pick it? Because the mint spreads to other plants. So sometimes I have to take down a lot. So are you talking about the mint that you've harvested or the mint that you've got growing? My recommendation when it comes to growing mint is to grow it in a pot. Mint can be very invasive and it can spread as far as you want it, or really quite a distance. And it's a real difficult thing to remove once it is spreading. So I grow mine in a big Belfast sink, but You can grow it in a pot. You can still put that pot in the ground. It will just stop it from spreading. However, mint that you've harvested, what you can do, you can dry it above an oven or in a cooled oven to dry it out, and then you can store it in glass jars. Or you could freeze the mint. You can make mint sauce, any of the preserves that are possible for mint. Lots of options, really. Let us know what you mean. Digwell says, one problem with asking questions to the audience is if there are more introverts than extroverts, then the same people answer all the time. I don't think it's so much about getting them to answer the question out loud. For me, it's more about getting them to ask themselves the question and get their mind thinking, what would I do? What could I do? I think that's more of the way of asking a question. So, for example, I might be talking about water butts. I'll use that as an example, and I'll say, how many water butts do you have? Well, I have 16, but I know somebody down the road from me has 32. I might say something like that by asking a question that I'm not wanting an answer from, but yeah, or even getting people to just show their hands. I think you probably notice I try and do that with you, ask you to show your hands. And I know, actually, funny enough, you're talking about introverts, extroverts. I know there's quite a few people watching this show every Sunday who stay back, who don't comment, and that's absolutely fine. But, you know, if you are in the background watching, please feel free to comment. We don't bite. We're happy to see you. Don't have to comment. You're more than welcome just to sit there watching. Scott Turbo Stream, sorry, says, my broad beans always do well sown in mid-March here. Yeah, it's definitely just how wet it gets, isn't it, in your soil? Onion bargies, Digwell says, for next week. I could do onion bargies. Pretty much almost the same as what we've done this week, isn't it? Kate says they look lovely. Jenny says, Richard will be munching on those when the photos are on. Don't blame you. They look delicious. They are really delicious. They're really delicious. I'm really glad I cooked these now. Turbo Stream says, I am a shy introvert, Digwell. So here's the thing. I'm a shy introvert as well, believe it or not. And you might be amazed that I sit here every Sunday doing this. I am incredibly introverted. I struggled up until I did the podcast. I struggled with being able to talk to anybody. If a phone rings, I wouldn't answer it. Since doing this podcast and doing this, I've actually sort of came out myself. I still have it. I still am quite introverted, particularly when it comes to asking questions. But again, that was one of the reasons behind the podcast, is that I wanted people who were a bit introverted to feel involved. Yeah, Scott says, yeah, you are with, yes, are with Steve. Stick with the Indian theme, onion bhajis or samosas. Samosas. I think a lot of people going for the bhajis. A rhetorical question then. Not so much a rhetorical question. It's more just getting people to engage their brain, I think, and just think, well, what would they do, or what would they answer to that? Because obviously, if you've got a crowd of people, you can't ask everybody the question. You'll be there all day. Great idea. Onion bhaji, challenge idea. Send us all an onion bhaji. 2 birds, 1 stone. It won't make it through the post. It won't make it through the post. But onion bhaji for next week, it will be. In the right company, I can out-talk Digwell. Yeah. It is amazing. I'm just going to make a note of that onion bhaji for next week. It is amazing that once you start talking, I find this a lot. Once people start talking, once you can get them out of that introverted shell, they can't stop talking. It's just a case of getting that person to engage. Onion bhajis, please, says David Williams. Another one for onion bhajis next week. We're going to be doing onion bhajis. We're going to have another bite of this because this is good. Mm. Mm-mm-mm. Oh, that is lovely. That is absolutely lovely. Confidence. That's actually something that we haven't put down, isn't it? Speakers needing confidence, being confident in speaking, but also confident with their subject matter. Just needs building. Again, that's something that does come with experience. Do build up on confidence. Again, yeah, yeah. I think people can tell when people are unconfident, and that gives them an air of, do they actually know what they're talking about? But yeah, yeah. Tammy Stream says, off topic, has anyone else not had their seeds yet? Mine are yet to arrive. They should have arrived by now. They went in the post last week. I haven't heard anyone say theirs hasn't arrived, so I don't know. Mine on time as always, says David, and thank you. That got me worried there. I think Rebecca says mine arrived yesterday. That still took wine. Still took a long time. Got mine. Mine haven't arrived. I've received mine. Mine arrived. Right. I'm guessing they're preparing to get busy. So what we'll do, we'll send them out a bit earlier. We'll have to start sending them out a bit earlier than what we have done. That's annoying. That's very annoying. When that, for those that don't realise, every month I send out seeds to my supporters club, members of my supporters club, and I normally send them out on the last day of a month. So that's been 11 days. Digwell got his on the 4th, so his four days still. Yeah, I think we're going to have to start. I'm going to start sending them out a bit earlier. Kate says, had my seeds sowed some tonight, and Tower Stream short, the seeds will revive eventually, just wondering. No worries. My postman is getting very busy as he was an hour later than his usual time, normal time. And Scott says his came on the 4th too. We'll start getting them sent out a little bit earlier for everyone. I think that's going to have to do. Richard Bushby has joined over on Instagram. Richard Bushby, the owner keeper of the Maze Garden, which I've been to a couple of times. Hope you are well, my friend. Lovely to see you. Digwell says, doesn't matter when they come, they're still monthly seeds. Indeed. And Turbo Stream, thanks everyone. Billy, no seeds here then. Well, I've sent them out is all I can say. That's one thing I can't control is the post, but we do our best. I tell you, we got two challenge videos to get through, as well as lots of photos. So I'm going to put up the first challenge video. Now, for those that don't know, each week I get you to set me a challenge, a mission to tackle over the coming week. Last week, you wanted me to show what some of my winter projects are on the allotment and on the home plot. And we'll start with the allotment. Okay, this week's mission, I have got 2 separate videos for you because you want me to show what my plans are over the winter months, my winter projects. And I'm starting off down on the allotment. Now, the allotment here in the winter is a bit of a difficult place to do anything on. That doesn't mean we're not going to be doing anything. I tend to focus more on infrastructure jobs. And some of the things I'm noticing is that some of my wood is rotting away. So we might have to replace those beds where we can. But some of the more important jobs, the first one I want to show you is just over here. And it's this elder tree. I planted this elder tree when I first moved into this allotment. I actually bought it from my old allotment. But it's a lot of work. It doesn't really give us anything. It does produce flowers and berries, of course, but we don't really use them. Plus, we can find those out in nature. I've been saying for years that I want to get rid of it every winter, and I've never got round to it. The trouble is it's a bit difficult to cut, so I'm going to have to use a handsaw to cut it in order to move it. The electric chainsaw just won't do it. So getting rid of that tree is one of those things. Then if we look behind you, you will see this area here. Of course, this is the greenhouse called the Sergeant from my step-granddad's. That needs glazing. I'm hoping to get that done over the winter, fingers crossed. But more importantly, behind it, you will see the sort of edge of this allotment here. It gets a little unkempt, a little difficult to take care of. So I'm going to concentrate over the winter and get rid of the brambles and really getting that area tidied up and making it just a little bit more accessible. It's not easy because of it's always been a problem area, that one, but we'll hope for the best. Now let's move on up to the second half of the plot. Now this is my raspberry bed. These are autumn raspberries. We actually got quite a few raspberries out of them, and we're still getting raspberries now, but because of the situation here, it's another area that's become really difficult to look after. So what I want to do over this winter months, again with all autumn raspberry plants, cut them all down to the base and then mulch them with a good layer of layer chip or something, just to reduce the weeds and tidy this area up. A lot of what we're going to be doing over these coming months is going to involve mulching because it's such a good thing to do. This area, again, like I said with the area on the other half of the allotment, it's been a difficult one to keep tidy and look after. I inherited this and it's become, it's just very weedy, but we'll get there in the end. Now the other area that I'm concentrating on is up the top here. Now the final area I want to concentrate on is this bit right at the very top. I actually did quite a lot of tidying up here last year and I got it to a really good state. The trouble is, that's my neighbours and they haven't been on their plot all year. All these brambles, stinging nettles and everything have come into mine, and it made it very difficult to do anything with. To the point, somebody has been actually throwing their waste onto my allotment, which is a little bit annoying as well. So this is another area I'm going to be concentrating on over the winter. I want to get it completely cleared, put something to stop any weeds coming over from next door, and try and tidy this all up to make it much more productive. In terms of productivity, we've got plenty of black currants, red currants, etc from it. It's just because theirs have been so bad and affected me so much, I became very disheartened and I let it get away from me. My mistake, but it's something I'm going to rectify. So that's the winter projects here on the allotment. Much more going on back at home. Yeah, so we'll go through what we're going to do at home in just a moment. More importantly, so let's have a quick look at the chat. Anybody got any thoughts on those winter projects on the allotment as well? Anybody got their own winter projects that they're going to be tackling? Jonathan is asking what type of vegetable you recommend planting now, depending on where you are. That's the big question. Depends on where you are, but I would look at over winter broad beans, peas, garlic and onions. That's what I would be recommending, those sort of four things, depending on where you are. Let's have a look. Anne says, another thing hubby did, first slide after the tea interval was always our very cute dog in our garden. Always got an half on the audience and got everyone focused before the second half. Good point. That's a very good point. It's, again, trying to make it all best for everyone, isn't it? And interesting. I like that idea, though. I'm sure Roxy will get quite a few R's. Scott says, we have the same fashion choices when it comes to allotment wear, Richard. I do like a woolly shirt. Yeah, I quite like that. That was a gift from a friend, from Lee, funnily enough, a couple of Christmases ago. I like wearing it on the allotment. It was just, I mean, yeah, I went down the allotment yesterday to shoot that video. And actually, I thought it was colder than what it was. But I got up in the morning, the house is cold as a trouble. So I thought outdoors was going to be colder. Actually, it wasn't that cold. Plus, my hair's just got so long lately. I'm trying to sort of grow it out. So it's also hiding my hair a little bit. Nice hat, says Stuart Jackson. I love a good hat. Acidic feed for the raspberries too. Yeah, that makes sense. Add a bit of acidic feed for them. That could work. Kate says, just a thought, how about gardening photography challenge for next week? A selection of photos to show off the beauty of the plot in allotment. I always think there's a beauty in every season. You want me to do a show off the beauty of... Okay, I like that idea. I do like that idea, Kate. Take a few photos showing off the beauty of the allotment in autumn. Okay, I think that's a good idea if everyone agrees. Looking good, says Rebecca. I'm still clearing out my plot and we'll be working on it over the winter months. Yeah, I'd love to see another update, actually, Rebecca, if that's possible, and see how it's going. And we can then see if we can offer a few tips or advice on how far you're getting. If that's something you would want to do, though, of course. David says, totally redoing my plot. Hardly been there the last 18 months. It's been one of those years this year, hasn't it? Shed build, reorganised bed, new fruit beds, and weed. Yeah, it's been one of those years. I think a lot of people have been struggling this year with their motivation because it's been such a crap year. Jenny says, sounds great, Richard. I plan on sorting my plot layout this winter, concentrate on soil health and plant bare root trees / fruit bushes and roses. Good idea. Good idea. I haven't got any bare rooted fruit trees yet, actually. What do you use for an acidic feed? Anything that is designed for blueberries, or I can't think of the other one, but blueberry plant feed is out there. Designed that. Or I can't think what it's called, but it is out there. Raspberries, how low would you cut them down? Thank you. Okay, good question. So my autumn raspberries in the winter, probably January, February time, I just cut them all down to a couple of just above ground level, that much about ground level. Whole lot, every single branch. You could leave a couple of branches so you get some very early raspberries if you wanted to, however. With the summer, however, so autumn raspberries produce fruit on first year canes. Summer raspberries produce fruit on the second year canes. So you've got to prune out all the raspberry canes that have produced raspberry this year, and the new ones, which are usually much more greener and fresher looking, those are the ones you want to leave because they're going to produce fruit next year. And again, just about that much above soil level. Hope that helps. Jenny says, I do like the idea of a photography challenge. Towie Stream, are we all sending a picture, Kate? Yeah, all sending a picture. It would be good to get more pictures coming in. I've been bad at sending photos this year. Yeah, we would like to see more photos. Bethan says, night all, got to go. Great show as always. Lovely to see you, Bethan. I'm hoping we're going to catch up soon. Digwa says, ericaceous feed. That's the word I was looking for. Ericaceous feed. Thank you. Ericaceous. Anyone else getting a wheel toppers and shunters audio? What's that? What's that? Is it from my audio as well? Turbo Stream, autumn raspberries can be cut to the ground now till the end of February. Yeah. And Stuart says, thank you very much. I'm just worried about wheel tappers and shunters. Wheel tappers and shunters. Turbo Stream says, the audio was a bit sketchy just now. Seems okay now. I'm not seeing anything here. What? I mean, sometimes this chair does creak, so it could be the chair. I'm trying to make it creak now, but I can't see anything going on. Let me know. Let's go to the home video of what the plan of my winter projects going on at home. Okay, so it's time for the second part of this challenge, which is to show you some of the changes I'm going to be making at home. Now, this here was part of my herb garden that I originally planted out. We've got blackcurrant sage and there's a couple of other sages in there. They've actually grown very, very well, but as you can see, they've grown too well. Despite making lots and lots of harvests from them, they've covered over the path, which at the moment everything's a bit overgrown because autumn and it's been so wet. But yeah, they're blocking the path, and they're also just blocking some of the sunlight getting to the chickens. As you can see here, I forget, that's equinox. That white one there, the small one, is Hegwin. We've got Gertie at the back there, the other white one, And then Bear, who's about 8 years old, there. She's an old bird, that one. Doing well though, but yeah, we want to get rid of all these herbs and just open that back up for them, which is something I'm starting to do this weekend. Moving on from that, this elder tree here, that has to go. Too big, bit pointless, and it's too close to the fence really. So we're going to get rid of that, combined with, also, I don't know if you can see it very well from here, this tree here. It goes all the way up there. Now, that one's going to be a problem. I don't do heights. This one, the elder tree, is going to be easy to get rid of. That one I'm going to struggle with, so I might have to bring in help for that. Going to be tricky. Inside here, the greenhouse, I've already started making some changes in here. We've got loads of tomatoes in there, so that's one part of the reason that it's a bit slow in here, because the tomatoes are still growing. But what you see, if you look down here, all along there, I'm laying down gravel, and I'm not having soil-based beds in here. I'm placing gravel down here, and I'm going to be having a load of my autopots in here. Reason I'm doing that is quite simply that I found the autopot system to be very, very good, very, very good for growing food, but these beds just don't grow very well as we replenish the compost and etc, but they get a bit depleted. So I've decided to change things up, and we're just got to remove everything from out of here, which is a slow process. So we've got to do it bit by bit because of various reasons. And then the final winter project is to do with this shed here. You can see it's a bit ropey again. I bought the shed when we moved in. It was a big mistake because I had no end of trouble with the suppliers from it. So that shed is going to be removed, and we're going to be replacing it with a potting shed purposely for sowing seeds, so that I can sow seeds and not sow them in our front room. Down the front we're probably going to have cold frames and things, but that's going to be something later on. So that is my winter projects here at home. Yeah, there we go, the home plot. A few things that we want to do. It's a bit of a mess at the moment. Autumn, overgrown. I wasn't happy with the garden at the moment, but because I'm clearing out that shed and the greenhouse as well, trying to find homes for everything is becoming a bit of a problem too. Anyway, that's my winter projects. Gonna cut down the I'm gonna sneeze. That excuse me. Sneezing isn't a winter project, but the cut down the herbs, cut down the 2 trees, gravel in the greenhouse and fit auto pots, and then new shed. A couple of other things that are going to go on as well, but you'll hear more on that as we go on through. Where were we? Turbo Stream says the audio went a bit sketchy just now. Oh no, we said that. Digwell says, my first year of pruning the raspberries, have to be careful as they are 2-timer types. Okay. Yeah, summer types. 2-timer. Is that when they produce 2 fruits a year? My screen was frozen a few seconds, and then Digwell says, mine went a bit crackly, but good now. Don't know what happened then. Audio was a bit crackly. I'll play it back and see if I can hear it. Speech was getting chopped, Richard. Okay now. Don't know what happened. I thought as Richard was a keen photographer, it would be a good challenge, but maybe put some in a Facebook group from anyone who fancies. I'm away for my birthday doing a photography workshop too. Oh, that sounds fun. I'd love to hear more about that. Equinox. It's Heguinox, as in Hegwin or something. What a lush name for a chicken. Chucks are lovely. Yeah, they are. They're great to have in the garden. Turbo Stream, my neighbour had their 70-foot silver birch taken down Friday. I can't believe how much extra light, even on a dull day, I now have. Perhaps you can start growing more in your garden then, you know, because you've always complained about that. Complained is the wrong word, but you've said it's dark. So I'll be interested to see how much more you can grow now. I think we all have a huge list of winter projects, and we do this year. I think this year has been such a tough old year with many things going on, but certainly for Grow Your Own, it's been a tough old year, and I think now we got loads of winter projects. I just realised that was Nicola. How long have you been here? Hadn't seen you before tonight. Yeah, I think we all have a lot. This year's been such a disaster that my frame of mind is we're getting better prepared for next year. So that's what we're going to be doing over winter. I recently had a second lot of gold raspberries, just a few, but it was a surprise this week. Yeah, we're still getting raspberries. It's great. My garden was shady most of the year, especially under the canopy. Might be better now. You never know. I'd love to see how much of a difference it's made, Turbo Stream, and see if you can actually grow more in your garden this year now that that tree has gone. Again, I'm not looking forward. I'm not sure how I'm going to take that tall tree out, but I think I'm going to have to hire somebody in for that, in all honesty, purely because I'm not very good at I'm not very good with heights. I can cut trees down. I've done it enough times. I'm just not good with heights. Stuart says, waiting for my big oak tree to be pollarded, which will give my garden lots more light. Yeah, oak trees, they suck a lot of moisture out of the soil as well, which can be a bit of a problem too. Kate says, my husband has booked me to do a photography workshop for the British Wildlife Centre. So excited. Hope to see lots of photos from it as well then. Nicholas says, I've got to do all new chicken runs, have to have separation as have several cockerels. It's always good to separate them. Hopefully we're not going to get any bird flu this year, but you never know. I'm doing last year's winter projects as it was so wet. You know, it's been nice the last couple of weeks to get some really fairly dry weather and feel like we can actually crack on with things now. I'm hoping we're going to stay like this, because if it's anything like last year, we just don't want any more moisture. I would like to grow more at home. The slugs are still a problem. Slugs have been a big problem this year. So who knows what's happened. Digger says, Cyril the squirrel has been busy burying his nuts in my raised beds. I found some monkey nuts when I pulled up a parsnip earlier. Them damn squirrels. They're good at that though, but that's part of why nuts are seeds, isn't it? It's part of the reason that trees produce seeds full of squirrels to do that with. Nicholas says, yes, I said hello at the beginning. I said hello, lovely. It's mild and sunny today. I don't think I saw it. Well, I don't recall seeing it, but that was an hour and a half ago nearly. 5 sycamores taken out, it cost £1,800. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to the cost of it. It's going to be one of those things that I don't like to do. So we've got 10 minutes left for the show. We've actually got everything figured out. We've just got to go through 2 lots of photos. We're going to start off. Which load of photos is this? So, yeah, this is this week's photo. So there wasn't many photos this week, actually. But this is Shipyard Gardener and Philly. I'm going to have to move this onto the bigger screen so I can see it. Shipyard Gardener and Philly. They're getting ready for next season, which tallies up with what we were just talking about, funnily enough. Getting ready for next growing season. By the way, Philly tells me that Shipyard Gardener also now has a YouTube channel. So please do go and subscribe to him over on his YouTube channel. Shipyard Gardener is what you're looking for. Kate has attended this talk on growing leeks. We mentioned this earlier by John Salisbury, and it sounded quite interesting. Exhibition pot leeks. Sounds very, very interesting. And last week we spoke about books. And Steve posted this picture of somebody who was mentioned a lot. I probably spelt his name very wrong, but D.G. Hessian and all his books, The Expert, which were very popular with you guys. So please do keep sending in your photos, post them on our Facebook group, send to me via social media, or email me, richard@veggroundpodcast.co.uk. As I said, that's not all the photos we've got. That was from this week, which has been a bit quiet, probably because I didn't share with you last week's photos, which we have right here. Save this especially for you because there's a few laughters in this one. Now, Shipyard has been growing this cauliflower. I've got to say, I was really impressed with the cauliflowers. He sent me a few photos of cauliflowers, actually. Really looking quite good there. Scott's celeriac. He's been growing some celeriac, which looks absolutely lovely. And I've got a taste for celeriac. So my celeriac bolted in the summer, but I'm quite envious of this and looking forward to growing more in the future. Kate's raised beds with soil from her pond. She's dug out a pond and she's used the soil that she removed from that to fill up her raised bed. Looking good there. Hopefully that bed is going to be very productive for you. Now, the Chillies sent in their end of the month plot shot, which I've got to say, I'm quite impressed. That looks very tidy, lots going on, and looks fantastic. So lots going on there, fantastic. Now, Scott sticking with the pond. His teenage son dug out a pond. And this photo just looked, well, posted this in the group, and my childish mind said that looks like a bit of a phallic symbol. I don't think I was the only one that thought that, though. But nevertheless, his teenage son had done a hard graft there, digging out that pond. Digger was plot shot at the end of a month as well. I think this is from plot 2, his new plot. So it's come together quite nicely. And Gemma, she's got herself a brand new allotment. She said it shared this picture of her. There was a before and after picture, and this was the after picture. It looks like she's been working very, very hard. Now, Jenny, she visited this old-fashioned seed shop, which looks absolutely brilliant as well. Reminds me of an old-fashioned cinema in some ways, but I've got to get to see this seed shop to see what it is like. And Stuart has been spreading his homemade compost. He said there's nothing like it, is there? Homemade compost, black gold. And it's always so satisfying when you have enough. Now, Anne spotted this pumpkin display. Pumpkin, of course, we've been discussing quite a bit lately, in season at the moment. But this just looks absolutely stunning. Hundreds and hundreds of different types of pumpkins all going on there. Now, again, please do keep sharing your photos. We love seeing them. We really do. Plus, it's good to share them with the group. Now, you can share them in our Facebook group. Easy to do. Send to me via social media. Just send me via direct message or DM, as the kids call it. Alternatively, you can email me, richard@theveggroundpodcast.co.uk. That's richard@theveggroundpodcast.co.uk. Again, always good to see your photos because I really do love seeing them as much as possible. Let's go with the comments. Where were we? Oh, sometimes. Oh, it's skipped up a lot. Where were we? I've seen that. Gone back to that. I hate it when it does this. There we go. So David says, if it stays like this, slugs will be on the rampage again next season. It's been really mild. I'm hoping we're going to get a cold snap to kill off the slugs and snails in some ways. Alternatively, I'm going to try and really encourage the birds into my garden to deal with slugs and snails for me. Really mild, yeah. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we can deal with that. I'm not using nematodes after what Digwell said. I went away and did my own research. Nematodes are they kill anything, and that's not what I like to hear. Turbo Stream says we had a 100% humidity on Thursday. It was so wet, but it wasn't raining. Not seen that before here. Yeah, I think we had quite a misty, like you walked out and your face was just covered in moisture. We had something like that. I think it was Thursday as well. But hey, it is going in. It is autumn, winter. It will get better. Nicholas says, I'm packing my house up as having insulation and heating grants, so no gardening for a few weeks, but we'll finally have heating, hot water after 3.5 years. Good, fingers crossed for you, it all goes to plan. That collie looks lush, says David. Needs some cheese. It did look a good cauliflower, didn't it? I'm looking forward to seeing how it turns out. Oh, that will be better, Nicola. Glad you'll be warm. Scott is laughing, I think, over his pond. Upside down butternut, says David. Scott's pond will be hard to beat. I could say something to that. That is very childish. Up DMs, Dr. Martens. Yeah, they are. Dr. Martens. Yeah, Dr. Martens. I forget that's what we used to call them. Toby Stream says, I will do a slideshow for the Christmas show of my photos I did take this year. Please do. Please do. We're looking forward to that. Great photos. Either the Christmas show or the New Year show. Because I think the last Sunday of a show, it might be when we do the photos throughout the year type thing. Digwell says, well, there were some nuts on the pond. Not sure it was butternut. Who was it that suggested a bit of a bush around that pond as well, just to add a bit more to it? We were a bit childish, aren't we? But hey, it's all good fun. It's all good fun. We were all teenagers once. We all did exactly the same sort of thing. Quiz for Christmas. Yeah, there will be a quiz for Christmas. It will be on the Sunday before Christmas. Trying to work it out. Christmas falls on a Wednesday this year, doesn't it? So we're going to do it on the Sunday, the Christmas party, and then the New Year's party is looking back over the year with your photos and things like that. So lots of good fun things to have in play there. In Cornwall, the DHUM often shows humidity at over 80%. Once for a while, it drops fairly quickly. Digwell says 22nd. That's it. 22nd is going to be the Christmas party, and the Sunday after is going to be the New Year's party. Now, subject for next week, and I did have an idea of what it was going to be, and I've forgotten it right now because I didn't write it down. I've started carrying a notepad with me to try and write all these things down when I think of them so that I always remember them, but I can't think what it was. It's something really quite relevant. But I can't think what it was. So I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Pruning tips and tricks. It's going to be that time of year when we're going to start pruning. Do you want to talk about that next week? Share your pruning tips and tricks next week. Digwell says, I use my phone to take notes. Yeah, I don't. I don't. I try to. I work better with notepad and paper is my honest answer to that. I do use a computer and phone to take notes, but I work better. But I work better with notepad and paper because I can just jot it down quickly. Digwell says, sounds good to me. Talking about pruning tips and tricks, I think it says. Memory tips. Yeah, I could do with that sometimes. I'll make a shopping list but forget to take it to the shop. Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, pruning. I'm going to start my newly inherited apple trees and relocate now. Row of them, 2, and relocate some of them too. Pruning sounds good to me. It's going to be all about pruning next week, as well as cooking some onion bhajis and taking photos of autumn in our garden. Let's make a note of that. I think that pretty much sums it up. Just trying to see. Yeah, I think so. I think it is time that we can close this up and get ready to retire. I hope you've enjoyed this chat tonight. I know it's been a bit different talking about garden talks, but it's been really interesting to get this feedback and tie it in with my plans. And I think some of us have learned quite a bit from it. So thank you so much. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please do give us a thumbs up. Please do give us a like. Don't forget to click subscribe or follow. And don't forget to click the notification so that you know when we go live. We will be back next Sunday at 6. We've got a podcast out tomorrow as well. And hopefully I'm going to get a video out to you too. But that's all in the pipeline. And if you're following our channels, you will find more about that. Right, guys, you take care. I'll speak to you again next Sunday at 6.